All right, Henry, it's all you.
This is meeting of April 19th of the Oregon City Transportation Advisory Committee. And we have, I think, a quorum showing up. Vance, it looks like you're going to be running the show. If you could give a roll call, please.
Will do. Mr. McEnroth,
Here.
Mr. Atkinson,
Present.
Mr. Morgan. I see you there.
You muted.
Okay, I'm here. Thank you.
Mr. Tatch. And Miles, you look like you might be froze up there. There you go. Thank you. Mr. Simmons.
Present.
And Mr. Freeze.
Here.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen.
Next on the agenda would be the making changes or adoption of the agenda. Is there anything anybody would like to have? Moving on to one thing which should be next is the minutes. I think I might have gotten them out of order. I'm sorry. I should like to point out the first paragraph of the minutes for the March meeting needs to be changed. Seeing as how I wasn't here in attendance, I don't think I could have opened the meeting.
Got it. Thanks, Henry.
Other than that, is there any changes? If not,
Make a motion to approve the minutes with the one edit.
I'll second that.
all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Anybody wants to be just not there? Okay. Next is be comments from the citizens. Do we have any, Vance?
No, sir. I'm not seeing any citizen comments. We did not receive any citizens' comments. Henry, you and I had discussed Amy Wilhite intended to have some comments about school zone on South End Road. That's been pushed to next month. She was not available, so she asked that we push it to next month. Other than that, no citizen comments, nobody waiting in the waiting room.
Okay, then I would guess the presentation is the next order of business. And Ms. Howie, if you would be so much to take over, Vance, of course, will do any honors for making Zoom work. And I'll just sort of shut up until you're ready to have questions and that ready.
Very good, Henry. Thank you. Joel, I'm going to make you co-host so you can share screen. Oh, hang on. All right, Joel, you are now the co-host and should be able to share screen.
Thank you, Vance. Good evening, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm Joel Howie. I'm our Clackamas County Capital Project Supervisor. I also manage projects as well as supervise staff. So one of the projects that I'm managing is the South End Road landslide repairs. And the good news is we're about to move into construction. So I'm going to hand my portion off to Stan Monty, who's going to be the construction project manager. Unfortunately, Stan wasn't able to make the meeting this evening, but I'm going to mainly give kind of the design side of things and pretty much the same, kind of go through the same presentation that I gave to the Kenema Neighborhood Association way back in April of 2021, actually pretty much a year ago. So are everybody able to see the slides okay?
Yes.
Good. So in spring of 2017, heavy rains created a whole bunch of debris flows on the road and kind of restricted paths the way the water is going to go, and pretty much spread everywhere underneath the road, and created some slide. It activated kind of the landslide that exists there. So the county did some temporary repairs, and then did some geotechnical exploration over the last couple of winters to really monitor what's going on with the slide. We did apply in the spring of 2017. The governor declared an emergency, and we're eligible for some federal funding. So that is helping pay for at least 89.73% of the project. The project area, if you're not familiar, I think this is kind of 5th Street in here, but the whole kind of study area is South End Road here. Kind of going back up the hill. This is about where there's some barrier rail that's on the south side of the road, as you go in the northbound direction. That's about the edge of our project limits. There's some kind of the top surface has some deterioration in it. We are going to kind of grind and inlay that. Let's see. So what we'll be doing is we're going to be building 2 retaining walls to prevent future slide activity and hold up the roadway embankment. The north limits, back in 2000 here, we did these soil nail stabilization. There's this power pole that still exists. So if certainly you can't see these rods anymore, and it's the landscaping is back here. But anyway, our northern limits are at this section, and then the barrier rail on the south side. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to interrupt. The timeline is our right-of-way is complete, design is complete. We bid the project out. We have a contractor, Stellar J Corporation. And so Stellar is proposing to close the road May 16th, start on kind of their clearing and grubbing, kind of prepping the site. PGE needs to do some work. PGE might start a little bit earlier than the road closure, but they'll be in there as well. And then roughly the big work will start the first week of June, and I'll get into that later. Community outreach. We do have a website, and I'm here, and not sure if my phone number is at the end, but if you have any questions, or I think my email is on the email list here. So if you have any questions, definitely let me know. We'll be sending out a notice of construction here in the next couple of weeks as well. Let's see. So the total funding, the 4.6 million, 4 million ER funding, and matched by 600,000 of our county road funds. So when we did our geotechnical explorations, we really found 2 distinct areas, profiles of the landslide. So we've got Troutdale, and this is just one section. So the 2 different areas is why we have 2 different types of walls. The 2 walls will both be what we call soldier pile retaining walls. So the soldier piles will be drilled. Actually, we'll drill in advance of the soldier piles, clear a hole out, drop in a pile and grout, and then at the face of the wall, connecting all the piles together, we'll have what will look like is, roughly 6 to 8 foot or 6 to 7 foot high retaining wall. So what we found in the geotechnical is we found some fill, landslide deposits, and then we found more Troutdale formation. And then this is kind of where, the slide plane is. There's a slide plane at the Troutdale, and mostly the slide plane is at the fill and the landslide deposits here. So at least in the first part of the wall, we'll get pretty deep, 20, 25 feet deep with our soldier piles. And then the other section we found is we were finding fill again, and then talus deposits, and then landslide deposits, and then Troutdale. So talus deposits are a way of saying more landslide deposits. So it's landslide deposits on top of landslide deposits on top of Troutdale. The biggest slide or where the slip plane we're finding some movement is between the fill and the talus, and the talus and the landslide. So with our soldier piles in this section, we'll just go down to towards the bottom of the landslide deposits and not really get much into the Troutdale formation. We'll also have a tieback that will be part of our retaining wall. So this section will be a soldier pile retaining wall with a tieback anchor on it. And I'll show a section here. So the main, this is kind of a view of the roadway and what it will look like when it's completed. But this is our soldier pile here. So we drill this section out, throw in this steel H pile, and then there'll be kind of this outer face of a wall that will be tied into these H piles. We'll also redo or reconstruct the travel lane that's on the going the south direction, going up the hill. We're hoping not to do much, at least on the north side, other than doing kind of a cold plain pavement removal and then repaving. So the whole road should be repaved. So this is kind of the cross section of just the soldier pile retaining wall. The soldier pile with the tieback anchor will pretty much look the same as the other cross section, except for we'll have this tieback anchor that will be drilled, and a big rebar will be placed at least 65 feet. And I'm trying to remember the angle, something like 15 degrees angle down. So we have enough to ensure we have enough capacity that this will withhold within the existing dirt or geology that's there. And this is just kind of that soldier pile section again. And then so my email, phone number is on here. Our website is here as well. And I think that all this was part of the handouts. So my contact information is there if you have any questions. It looks like Ray, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question about solid implementation, the road permanently closed. Is there a detour route for motorists and for people walking and biking as well?
For motorists, there definitely will be a detour. Will be similar to the one that we used when we closed the road down to do the temporary repairs. Since there aren't any official bicycle lanes or sidewalks, we aren't really doing an official sidewalk detour. We'll know more as we talk more with the contractor. It's possible that they might allow pedestrian bicyclists over the weekends, but we haven't had those conversations yet.
And I will say regarding bike ped, I don't know how many people actually walk or bike to this area, but I did look at Strava map and there are some bikers that use this road. So I just want to be aware, make sure that they are accommodated through it too. Thank you.
You bet. And any other questions?
I do. I actually have one or two. I know, or at least I think I know, that you're planning on using Fifth Street, Lynn Avenue as the detour. And what I'm wondering about is who is going to be responsible for putting up the detour signage and making sure the route is adequately outlined so that people can follow it.
The contractor is going to be responsible for the detour. Our contract plans do have a detailed detour plan with it. We feel that is appropriate and a little bit more beefed up compared to what we had previously, but it's kind of been tested before, but the contractor will be responsible for maintaining it. Certainly we'll have inspectors that will drive the detour route, make sure things don't disappear, and if they do disappear, we'll make sure they get replaced.
Seeing as how a couple of us actually live on that route, I thought it might be worth, raising the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Any
I've got a
other
question? Yeah,
go ahead.
maybe I missed it during the presentation, but you mentioned that this latest slide was due to a high water event or an excessive water event, but did you touch on what you're planning to do with the water? Because I just feel like that's a part of this scenario here.
Well, we are going to improve drainage along there. Let's see. I'm not sure if that cross section showed there. It's let's see. Let me go back one more slide, two more slides. It's really hard to see here, but water, at least on the on the roadway when it rains, on this side of the road, at least on the north side of the road, this rail will have a curb associated with it. So the water will collect adjacent to the curb, and we'll have multiple catch basins that collect the water and then send it in pipes actually back to the other side of the road in pipes. And we'll do a much better job of collecting stormwater that collects on the road. We'll also, we have kind of the swale in here, but that's short. It's only about 100-foot long at the north end of the project. But we are going to do a more diligent job of collecting stormwater that collects on the road.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any subgrade water control?
Well, not really, because the walls are designed to incorporate that hydrostatic pressure that would come if this whole thing was had a whole bunch of water within it. So we're not gonna try to do any collection of it through the subgrade. It just will kind of continue doing what it has done over time.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Joel, I've got a question for you. Remember in some meetings we had quite a long time ago about this project, it sounded like there's certain areas on South End Road that over the years, when they'd slide, they were just repaved over. And that, I think there's some sections, as I recall, that have, a few feet of asphalt in those sections. Is that gonna stay, or would that be excavated and a new sub base placed with a more reasonable amount of asphalt?
Correct. There's just a couple of sections where we did find that, and it's mainly right around Coffee Creek Falls there, because that's where the constantly kind of sinks there. So our crews have just as it sinks, just paved over it. So those sections will definitely all be excavated out and will mimic a typical roadway section and not have so much weight on them, and that will help as well to alleviate so much weight on the subgrade there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay.
Any
Not
other
hearing or not seeing anything for any more questions. I would like to say thank you for the presentation, and we'll move on.
Sounds great. Very nice to meet you all. And again, my contact information's there. Any questions, comments, let me know.
I'm sure Vance will have it.
Yep, I've got it. Joel, thank you so much for carving out the time to speak with the TAC board. I really appreciate it. And for the TAC board, certainly, if you happen to miss or didn't copy down Joel's information, just reach out to me and I can put you in touch.
Great. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Joel.
Bye.
Okay, Vance, I think you're probably next in the barrel if you want to give the Public Works report.
We do not have a public works report, Henry. There was nothing juicy and good to talk about this month, frankly.
No. Gee, I ought to go on vacation more often. Well, if there's nothing more, I do have a question or two. Do you have any thoughts about having any sort of major road upgrade repairs in the foreseeable future?
Well, last month, Jason Thornburg talked about our PMUF projects.
Right, and which I missed.
Yeah, well, you'll have to watch the recording, Henry.
Okay.
Yeah, so we like we do typically every year, we've got several roads selected for slurry seal, crack sealing. We'll proceed that. We've got a couple roads, kind of a biggie. Washington, there in front of Home Depot and Metro, is going to get a chip seal. So yeah, not unlike our typical PMUF years, we've got some good projects coming down the pike this summer, Henry.
I did see the article in last week's Oregon City News about Holcomb Road and the various bits of upgrading that or fill-in lots that are going in up there. And so is there any news on that front about how that's probably those projects that we didn't get funded last year? Are they possibly getting funded this year?
Henry, not to my knowledge, but that's not to say that some of those projects, have been funded. I'll be happy to look that up and get with engineering and let you know. But I do not have a definitive answer for you.
I would just hate to see the good thoughts that we had are not get pushed along.
Right.
Well, in that case, does anybody have anything to bring up?
I was going to share a May agenda item if I was following the VLCD, the Department of Land Conservation and Development, they have a climate-friendly and equitable communities rulemaking process. And I don't know if our committee wanted to have DLCD present to our committee in May about that process, because it impacts every city in the state.
So. Anybody?
I have a question when it's ready.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, this is for you, Vance. I was noticing on that email that you sent the other day that was forwarded on the engineering firm that the person's retiring and new one's being replaced for road projects and stuff. Is there a way to put a provision that when they're doing these major road changes that they'll make a cutout for TriMet stops? Experienced that are night coming out of Fred Meyer are nicely resurfaced and constructed. And the bus stop is right there when you turn right going northbound, and all of a sudden, boom, the traffic's completely stopped. Nobody can go around it because you have the medium in the way. And the bus is sticking there. And then meanwhile, you got people trying to catch the light going out. It seems as though that TriMet always puts their bus stops 15 feet from the traffic light. I don't know why they can't move them a little bit farther down. If they can, why can't they make a cutout so that they can actually stop impeding traffic? So I was wondering if we can get in future developments of these roads to plan with TriMet so traffic can move when they're picking up their passengers.
No, that's a very good point, Tim. I think we've all seen that situation that you just described with the bus stop right next to an intersection. I do know that the answer is yes, they do take that into consideration, but there are factors such as right-of-way. Do they have enough right-of-way to put in a turnout for a bus? Can right-of-way be acquired? Those things are definitely talked about, but I've made a note of it, Tim, and I think it's worthy of passing that along to try to give, I don't want to say more attention, because I do believe that it is discussed at great length and in part of the design process. But if I had to guess, I'd say a lot of times it's the lack of right-of-way or available right-of-way to put those in.
Yeah, I know it probably would cut into some of the sidewalk area that they have, but it's what happens is they pull over and then cars get trapped in the intersection because they're not expecting that they're going to stop. And then you've got cars turning, right onto the intersection, and then they're getting blocked. And I think it also creates another hazard. But I know in Washington County, where I used to live, there's a few of them there that were really bad. And they would just plug up 4 lanes of road. And it would be the slowest people to get on the bus, and meanwhile there's traffic cameras and they're writing tickets for you for interfering, being in the intersection. So I just would like to see that incorporated in the new design so that we can address TriMet's needs and also the travelers' needs.
Certainly.
I think too, that may involve having a discussion with TriMet, because my memory, which may be faulty, says TriMet favors before intersection bus stops rather than after intersection bus stops. And so that may be part of what you're talking about, Tim, is that with the bus stop before an intersection, you can't really see cross traffic until you're alongside the bus.
Yeah, so if you look at the one right there at Fred Meyer coming out the west entrance there, it's after the intersection and it's 25 feet maybe as you're turning right to get on the 1-lane road, the one-way traffic or the 2-way traffic there. And then it just plugs. You can't go around the bus. You have to stop. And so meanwhile, people are caught in the intersection or trying to turn. I think it was really a bad placement. I'm sure they did it because it would make people not have to walk as far. But from a safety standpoint of, for motorists, you're not expecting to get a green light, turn right, and all of a sudden, boom, there's a bus sitting there. And we spent a lot of money, designing that street. It's great. It's nice and smooth. I wish Holcomb was that smooth.
I just want to add to that, Tim. I actually live right down the street. I live on Gaffney Lane.
Yeah.
And so I feel your pain every day. And that bus stop used to be right out in front of the US Bank. So it used to be before the stoplight. And they did move it to after the stoplight. And I was asking the same thing because if you go down another 100 yards out in front of the old Goodwill, it is cut out. So it did seem kind of odd. I don't know why it wasn't worked into the plans or what the barriers were, especially considering that property has been vacant since they tore down Elmer's, probably, I don't know, so it's like 10, 15 years. So I agree that we need to look at that, and maybe, I mean, it sucks we did all that great work, but maybe it's something that we realize that we didn't capture because it is causing a huge backflow of traffic on any given day, especially during that rush hour. If there's a bus sitting there, it plugs up that whole intersection and that cross traffic coming out of Fred Meyer's. I actually put that in my survey. If anybody else did the survey, I put that in my survey as part of my feedback, because I get caught in it a lot when I'm trying to go that direction.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, good. And Bruce, I'm glad you put that on the survey, and yeah, I've experienced it myself. Obviously our new public works facility is here on Olalla, and yeah, I know the situation you're talking about. So I'll see
And to Henry's point, I think it's a valid point to have the stop before the intersection, so it keeps the intersection open, and it also will prevent people from trying to go around it, versus after the intersection, which is where the safety starts happening then too. So anyway. Thank you.
Regarding the survey results, have this been shared from All Avenue survey? I think it closed already, I believe.
I'll have to check for you, Ray.
Okay.
Be happy to do that. So the question is, will the survey results be shared for the public, correct?
Or the since the data, aggregated data that can be presented to TAC, just to understand if there's things that we should be aware of.
Got it. Thanks, Ray. I'm making a note of it for you.
Thanks.
Well, prior to the meeting, I had a little conversation with Vance about the handicapped ramps that went in on 6th Street and Center, and I assume on 8th Street and Center. That in the future, that engineering needs to consider that people getting into the street need to be able to get out of the street on the other side, and that people thinking of handicap ramps should be thinking intersections and not necessarily blocks.
Mhm.
And so, having already conveyed that to Vance, I just wanted to get it out and put it on the screen that I had passed that along.
Yep.
Anything else? Then I'm going to call this meeting over. Going, gone. Thank you all for showing up.
You're welcome.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Hans.
You betcha. Have a good night, folks.
This may be the shortest meeting of ever.
But it was still a good meeting, Henry.
Oh, yeah.
Still a
Maybe
good.
we'll be able to have your pizza next meeting then.
It may come one day, Tim, but it's going to be more than likely, if we do go back to in person, it will be after our summer break.
That'll be cool. I actually want to see people actually have, legs. It'd be nice to see.
Yeah. Tim,
I've been doing too much of this, the upper torso.
That's right. I've never got to meet you in person yet.
I know. Yeah, it's pretty funny. All right, you guys have a great evening. Thanks for all you do.
Have a good night, gentlemen.
Bye-bye.